I have to say, the coolest thing that the Witcher Netflix series has done is it has gotten more people interested in the book. So much so that Sapkowski has re entered the New York Times top 5 bestsellers list. That's awesome because that means more people are going to be here ready to talk about this stuff. Because I'm going to tell you guys, 3 books in, it's still really good. Let's talk about it. Do you know why the Scoia'tael were here? Do you see what they wanted to look at? And do you understand why the elven and dwarven young must not be allowed to be massacred once again? Do you understand why neither you nor I are permitted to have a hand in this massacre? These roses flower all year round. They ought to have grown wild by now, but they are more beautiful than any rose in a tinted garden. The impetuous and foolish ones for whom the cracked stone is a symbol, as well as the sensible ones for whom these immortal, forever reborn flowers are a symbol. Elves who understand that if this bush is torn from the ground and the earth is burned out, the roses of Sheolarwed will never flower again. Do you understand? Do you understand what this neutrality is, which stirs you so? To be neutral does not mean to be indifferent or insensitive. You don't have to kill your feelings. It's enough to kill hatred within yourself. Do you understand? Hey, what's up, bookworms and Witcher fans? Mike here again to talk about more Witcher. As today, we're going to be doing a quick review of Blood of Elves, the first official book in the Witcher Saga by Andrzej Sapkowski. Now, by now you probably know that the first 2 short story collections don't get a little number on the spine, so those were considered like a 0.2, I think, and 0.5. Whatever. I'm not going to get into math. I just have to read, not do math, right? But this is the first official novel in the Witcher series, and I want to talk about today because, guys, I'm still having a blast with this book. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to be interested in this that watch the Netflix series but have not read the book. Now, I wanted to say up front that while most of the book reviews on this channel, I have switched to a non-spoiler format, except for Wheel of Time. I always go full spoilers on that because there's so much to unpack, and I want to decompress and talk to you guys about it. Witcher is going to kind of be the same way. While not exactly as heavily spoilered as the Wheel of Time books are, I'm going to talk about spoilers in these because, like I said, I feel like most of the viewers on this channel who watch the Witcher stuff are people primarily from Poland and other regions that have read this series and just want to talk to, or I guess kind of experience it through someone else's eyes that's reading it for the first time. So I've decided I'm going to go ahead and do spoiler reviews for my Witcher books. If you're watching this not wanting to be spoiler, yes, it's good. Read it. That's all I can really tell you without spoiling this stuff, because I tried putting together some notes to do it in a non-spoiler fashion, and I'm like, really, it would sound like nothing happened in this book. And I know a lot of people have said not much happens, but I felt like plenty happened in it. But I can't really get into it besides, if it was non-spoiler, I'd be like, Ciri's trained to be a wizard and Ciri's training to be a witcher. There you go. There's your non-spoiler review. I have to get into this, and so that's why I made that decision. So I'm sorry if you're disappointed with that. I feel like this is the best way to go to talk about this series because, again, there's a lot to unpack, and I want to talk to people who have read this series about what is happening in this book and kind of where I'm at. But watch out for the comments below if you don't want to be spoiled past this book. I'm asking you guys, please, if you've read the entire series, this is my first read-through. I haven't gotten past Blood of Elves yet, so please try to keep the spoilers to just the first 2 short story books and Blood of Elves. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. This picks up about 3 years after something more. That's the last short story in Sword of Destiny. If I'm wrong on that timeline, please let me know. I kind of looked it up on the Witcher fandom page to make sure I had that timeline correct. I believe they said she was like, 10 in something more, and now she's 13 and training at Kaer Morhen. So yeah, she's training to be the first female Witcher in Kaer Morhen. She's up there in a big old sausage party, only girl there, and that actually has some implications here. But we get introduced to Vesemir. If I'm saying these names wrong, please let me know. Vesemir, I know is right. Cohen, Eskel, and Lambert, or as my wife calls him, Lambert. It's a long story. That come from me actually playing the Witcher 3 video game. But yeah, we get to see Kaer Morhen here, and kind of see what is going into her training. Lots of, periquet. I think periquet. I forget what that word is. She used a lot in her dialogue. But really, what I want to say before I get too much into it, and I don't want to forget about it, is I just have to compliment Sapkowski's writing ability, because there are so many times. Most of these stories you'll see POV chapters, and it does a POV of a different character in each chapter. This dude switches between POV characters basically like almost in mid-sentence. And you would think that would be jarring, but he's such a smooth writer that I'm never once confused about who's telling me what, who's thinking what. It's just done so eloquently. That's the word I have to use, eloquent. This guy is an eloquent writer, and I love it. I love his prose. It is magnificent. And I'm kind of blown away at this point, because I was worried that a lot of this would be through the English translation, that a lot of it would be lost in translation. If that's the case, it isn't here. Either that or they had one hell of a translator, because I never once felt like something didn't make sense. And it's beautiful. Beautiful writing. So back to real time here. Ciri meets Triss Merigold. Triss was just kind of mentioned in the short stories. And I believe her name was one of those on the hill of the 13 or the 14 that fell in the Battle of Sodden Hill. So right off the bat, obviously, I know mostly from my knowledge of the video games that she is actually very much alive. I know that the video games aren't canon. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I know obviously that they didn't just resurrect a character from the dead for the video games. Okay, get that straight here. And she actually meets Ciri on the road, and they have like a little journey, but you find out that Triss has actually been called there by Geralt to look into Ciri's behavior. And so right off the bat, I've got some hooks. What's Ciri doing that's kind of weird? Obviously, if you watch the series now, you know she's had like the super shout, just like her mom had. So you know that's probably what they're talking about. But she goes into like these trances, so she wants her to look into this. But this is where you get like a little background on Triss, because like I said, you're switching these POV characters like all the time, and with Triss, and you find out that, for lack of a better term, she's kind of rapey, a little more rapey than I expected, because she basically says that she was trying to hook up with Geralt in between these stories, and she might have used magic just a little bit to influence his decision. Wow, that was a little more rapey than I was expecting from Triss. Now, I did get a lot of people who told me, and I have to bring up the games, guys, because that was my knowledge up before I started reading these books, was the games. I knew that they weren't canon. I knew they were fan fiction. I'm just saying, I have to bring these up here. So please, don't attack me in the comments here. That's why I keep bringing up the games. Is that in the games, I said that I was kind of all for Triss, because I like girls who don't run. I like the girls that are emotionally available to me. And in the game, it seemed like Triss was available, and Yennefer was always running. And I'm 41, guys. I'm not into the gals that run. I ain't got time for that shit, right? So, but then I would always get the book readers be like, look, you just don't understand. And I'm like, yeah, I don't understand. All I played is the video games. Now that I'm reading the book, I kind of understand, because, wow, Triss, not okay. Definitely not okay. Other than that, I actually like her, okay? I feel like she's brought a point to the story. She basically she just lambasts all the guys up there about, when a preteen or early teen girl goes through a certain thing that all preteen or early teen goes through. I'm not like fantasy novelists, male fantasy novelists who feel like they've got to talk about the woman's cycle. I'm just going to say when women go through what they go through, right? I feel like you read Peter V. Brett or any of these, or Brett Weeks, and they feel like they've got to spend a couple chapters talking about women going through their cycles. And I'm like, I'm not a pro on that, so I'm not going to talk about that. But she lambasts them pretty good. And it's quite amusing. I had a good time with it. More so in those two stories I was talking about with Demon Cycle and Lightbringer, where it was like, this is getting a little uncomfortable, guys. And you are not pros at this. But it could have been worse. It could have been like Stephen King and Tommyknockers. Whew, my God. Man, I can't wait for that review. But getting to meet all these guys up there, seeing how Lambert seems to be really, really hard on Ciri is one thing. She seems to kind of had a bond with Cohen. So getting a little more Witcher's kind of fleshed out there. I'm excited to learn more about these characters. I hope that they do stick around. I don't know how much they are in this story, but I'm hoping that they are. Obviously, y'all already know that I like Vesemir. He's like a father figure to Geralt. So I already know he's going to be there. And I am on team cast Mark Hamill for that role. So if that happens, I mean, showrunner even like, she made the little on Twitter. She made like the little eyes when he said that he would be interested in doing it. So, hey, I kind of feel like that's how Henry Cavill got the role. Hey, I would like to have that. And like, we would very much like to have you do this. I kind of feel like that would be quite neat. And not to get off on a tangent here, but I feel like that would be the role for Mark Hamill that he should have played in the new Star Wars movies and didn't get to play. Kind of that mentor badass. So I'd be all about that. Ciri has these things going on, and Triss is like, look, I'm not the one for this. You need to swallow your pride, and you need to call Yennefer. And so he does so by letter, and he receives quite a passive-aggressive response, I would say. Very amusing stuff. But let's see here. Dandelion, he's singing about, and he's still called Dandelion in my books, not Jaskier. So that's why I'm calling him Dandelion. Again, I don't know what translation you have. In these U.S. versions, he's still called Dandelion. So I'm sticking with Dandelion in all these reviews, and that's why I said I was still calling him Dandelion when I was doing my Witcher TV episode reviews, and I'll put those up here in case you missed them, by the way. But he is singing songs about Geralt and Yen and Ciri and their adventures and whatnot, and that kind of gets him noticed by this wizard. I believe his name is pronounced Rience. It might be Rience. I'm not sure. Rience. He goes about torturing Dandelion, trying to find out where Ciri is, and Dandelion he's doing better than me. He is not spilling the beans, and then Yen shows up and saves his ass. And she's fighting with the blades and stuff, so it's pretty cool. She can do a little bit more than magic, but she has this big kind of quick showdown with him, and he's escaping through a portal. She kind of leaves like a little love mark on his face, like burns his face just a little bit. So what makes for a really good villain? Just burns all over the face. That makes for a really good villain. I don't know if he's going to be recurring, but he does make it out of this book alive. But meanwhile, Geralt decides he's going to take Ciri to Nennika at the temple to try to, he refers to it, I believe, as normal education, which the reader knows means they're going to find out what kind of magic she can do. And on the way, Triss gets very sick, and this gives you some time for exposition because Geralt runs into Yarpen Zigrin from Bounds of Reason, from that story, the dwarf, and his traveling party. And him and Ciri have a lot of really fun conversation. I thought that was a very good way, again, eloquent way to do some exposition by giving some history of the land, of the elves, of the Scoia'tael, stuff like that. It was really good, and it's the way that Zigrin delivers some of that stuff is just, you can tell he doesn't have a daughter. So it's just like, wow, okay. So really, really good stuff there. I had a great time with that. Hoping to see more of him in the series. Like I said, I don't know by now how many of these characters are one-offs or how many of them are going to show up in the entire series. That's one I wouldn't mind seeing return because every time he's on the page, I'm having a good time. And it was a lot of fun. I think the part of this book that would confuse a lot of people, obviously I'm reading Wheel of Time right now. You can throw 4,000 characters at me and I'm going to be able to keep them separate. But someone who's coming in fresh from just a TV show might get a little confused here because you have this Kingsmoot chapter where you've got all these kings and regions and all these names and titles. It might confuse some people. Long story short, they decide that Ciri must be found and put to the blade after they try to propose that Foltest marries her, which is just weird. Okay, they got to find her and they want to put her down. We also get our first peep of Emir, I believe, who is in control of Nilfgaard at this point. Don't know much more about it, but we do see that he commands Rience to assassinate Geralt on the hush-hush, but not to harm Yennefer. So I don't know what's going on there. We also see that Kaer, the winged helmet guy, we see that he is set free begrudgingly. He is begrudgingly set free to do, we'll see. We shall see. It kind of left ambiguous. But Geralt has this throwdown with Rience, and Rience is able to escape through a portal. But then Philippa Eilhart, I have Eilhart in my notes. I'm going to stick with Eilhart. She closes the portal to prevent Geralt from following and says it's because she doesn't want him to learn too much. So it's easy to see why not only does Geralt not like portals, but he also does not like mages very much. It doesn't seem like, and it makes a lot of sense. For me, it was like Eilhart seemed like she was looking out for number one the whole time, so it did not surprise me. But I mean, the last arc of the book is Ciri's time slowly bonding with Yennefer, and it shows how much she did not like her at first, and how much she just, it becomes like much how Geralt and Ciri becomes like a father-daughter bond, with Yennefer becomes a mother-daughter bond. And if you got Yennefer, who was just wanting to spend the short stories just trying to figure out a way to have children, it makes a lot of sense there. Now you got your familial bond with all three of them. Now we just gotta get mom and dad to work it out, right? So overall, guys, I had a good time with the book. I will say it was kind of a stunning ending. It really felt like it was the end of a second act, and then the third act was just missing. So it was really hard for me not to pick up the next book, which I believe is Time of Contempt. I'm not sure. I got it back there. I just don't want to turn around while I'm on the camera and look at it. But it was really hard for me not to pick up the next one and keep going. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be done with this series completely before. I know it'll be before the show comes back, because the show, I don't think it was coming back until 2021, which is depressing, because I feel like I did that video right here where I talked about what would be a bigger hit, The Wheel of Time on Amazon, or Netflix, or Witcher on Netflix, and I thought it was like a no-brainer. It was going to be The Witcher, because one, it already had the following. Two, Netflix has a huge foothold in the streaming market, and three, it's the first big fantastical series to launch after Game of Thrones. So it made the most sense. But I think it even exceeded their expectations, because everyone's just wetting their pants about The Mandalorian right now. And I believe the numbers, this is loose math. You don't really know these numbers, because these digital companies, they don't have to give you their data. But apparently, The Mandalorian had about 115 million viewers, and Netflix's The Witcher had 127 million. So obviously there's more households that it's reaching there. It's going to be a bigger hit, and that was one of my reasons. Netflix has a bigger foothold, a stranglehold on the market. So that made the most sense. But I'm glad it's getting a lot of success. There was a lot of people that were like, oh, I don't get the timeline, stuff like that. I'm glad they didn't dumb it down. I had my criticisms. You can watch all those videos if you want. I had my criticisms of it. I was mostly positive on it. And while I was reading this, actually, I was watching the series as I finished Blood of Elves. It was hard for me not to picture how they're going to do some of this on screen. I feel like there are some mishaps they made. I don't want to get into spoilers in that case you haven't watched a TV series, but I felt like there was a couple of mishaps with my two favorite short stories, which were Sword of Destiny and Something More, that I feel like there's still a chance to try to fix some of those things. Maybe some of those short stories they kind of pull forward into Season 2 and kind of do them in a different way. But I don't feel like all of Season 2 is going to be just this book, because it would be pretty short. This book, it looks big, but it's big font. I think it was like 320 pages. Really not that much. I don't feel like there's very much enough material for them to do a full season. So I expect them to fully flesh out some things like they did in Season 1. So, but I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm definitely looking forward to continuing the series. I'm having a really, really good time with this. I never thought things like alchemy and explaining magic training would be so interesting to me, but I'm just having a blast. And I think it's, again, because he's just such a good writer. So just excited that more people are getting interested in these books, much like I did, and going to have more people to talk to about it. So guys, again, if you didn't want to be spoiled and I just spoiled you, I'm really sorry. I gave you a warning, but if you felt like you just can't read it now, I think that would be a mistake, because there's lots of stuff I didn't talk about, lots of dialogue that's really, really good that you need to listen to closely. But overall, man, I had a really, really good time with this. Looking forward to continuing. I want to know why, what the deal is with Triss supposedly dying and not being dead now, because it sounded like there was. He's like, oh, it's a story for another time. I'd like to know this story. I'd like to know what it's going to be like when Yennefer and Geralt meet back up again, because I imagine it'll be just like it always is, and it'll be a tornado, So I feel like I just want the band back together at this point. I want Ciri, Yen, Dandelion, and Geralt on an adventure together. I would like to see those four together at one point in this story, just having an adventure. That's my hopes going forward. And you know what? Hey, throw Triss in there just for the drama, I guess. It's just all five of those together. I'd like to see them traveling together. That would be a fun time. So that's what I'm hoping for going forward. I want to know more about Vilgefortz, who they've only just kind of mentioned. His appearance in Season 1 of the show really piqued my interest to know what exactly is going on, even though people have told me it is quite different. But I feel like anything that they've changed on the show, they're still going to do it like it's on the book. They just might be going about it a different way. And that's always fine with me. I mean, I love Lord of the Rings like a Bible. And a lot of the changes that they made, I was fine with. And I had a lot of people ask me, how are you not nitpicky about this? And I was like, I'm never nitpicky about book adaptations because I'm a big Stephen King fan, and they always destroy his books in the translation to the screen. So when you get something that was as closely adapted as this was, you don't get nitpicky. You're just happy that it's recognizable. I always referenced in the reviews for that for Preacher that they did on AMC. That's one of my favorite graphic novels ever. Maybe my favorite, that and Watchmen. And it's like unrecognizable other than character names. So I was quite happy with the adaptation. Again, you can watch those videos if you want. I've linked them in the video. I'll put them at the end screen. But guys, did you read Blood of Elves? What do you think? Please, let's hit the discussion. Let's talk about these things. That's what these videos are for, is to talk about with you guys. I want to know what you guys think, and we can get the conversation going down there. So thank you for watching, guys, and I will talk at you soon.